Hello, good evening, Hare Krishna. So today we're reading Krishna book, chapter 11, entitled Killing the Demons Vatsasura and Bakasura. So yesterday we were hearing the story of the deliverance of Nala Kuvera and Manigriva, the two Arjuna trees. They were the trees that were in Krishna's courtyard when he was tied to the wooden grinding mortar by his mother, and he was left there. She went back to her household duties, and he was even more angry. He said, "I'm being left for the second time." The first time was when his mother had to leave him, stop breastfeeding him because the milk was boiling, and now again she tied him and left, and he decided to do something even more mischievous than the first time, and so he went on to crawl in between the trees, and the wooden grinding mortar got stuck in between and pulled onto it, and the trees crashed, and then two brilliantly effulgent personalities, the sons of Kuvera, who is the treasurer of the demigods, worshipper of Shiva. Treasure of the demigods means you've got a lot of material wealth, and so with that material wealth they had become puffed up. We'd heard about how they're puffed up with false prestige and pride, and like the sons of wealthy people, they can get addicted to sex, gambling, and liquor intoxication, and so they were in that situation. They were actually in the groves of Shiva near Kailash, and they were enjoying in the river, in the water with young naked girls, and they didn't have the dignity to, the respect towards the saintly persons like Narada who happened to come by at that time. The girls covered themselves up, but the two sons of Kuvera, they weren't in that kind of they were too out of it, and then Narada decided to help them like a sage would, and cursed them to become trees, and then as a result be able to see Krishna at the end of their life. Not all trees get to do that, but he had a specific idea in mind, and also they were able to remember their previous lives. So when they gave prayers to Krishna, they had thought about that for quite a while, and that's what happened. Now the Lord was, at the end of that, he remained bound up with ropes to the grinding mortar in between the two fallen trees. Now we're going to start to the chapter 11, the killing of demons Vatsasura and Bakasura. So it continues off the last chapter where Prabhupada's saying, the trees made such a sound like thunderbolts whilst falling that all the inhabitants of Gokul, including Nanda Maharaj, immediately came to the spot. They were very much astonished to see those trees had fallen suddenly, and they could find no reason. They were astonished because they could find no reason as to why they had fallen. They were completely puzzled, and they were thinking, this must have been done by some demon, because that's what happened not too long before. You had Putana come and try to poison Krishna, and then you had Trinavarta taking Krishna on his shoulders and taking him into the sky, trying to kill him, and but both of them ended up dead. Now it seemed like something a demon must have done. Otherwise, how was it possible to uproot such a massive trees? And so they were confused, perturbed by such uncommon instances which were always happening to child Krishna. So while older men were contemplating, the small children who were playing there informed the men that the trees fell due to Krishna's pulling the wooden mortar with the ropes to which he was bound. They were saying Krishna came in between the two trees. They explained that the wooden mortar was topsy-turvy and stuck in between the trees. Krishna began to pull the rope and the trees fell down. When the trees fell down, two very dazzling men came out of the trees and they began to talk to Krishna. Now, most of the cowmen did not believe the statements of the children. They could not believe that such things were at all possible. Some of them, however, believed them and told Nanda Maharaj, "Your child is different from all children." I mean, after all his past incidences with these demons, he just might have done it. Nanda Maharaj began to smile, hearing about the extraordinary abilities of his son. He came forward and untied, so Krishna was still tied up to now, and untied the knot just to free his wonderful child. After being freed up, all the ladies, elderly gopis, took Krishna on their laps, and they took him away from the courtyard and began to clapping and praising his wonderful pastime. So they were like, surround in a circle around him. They were like clapping and glorifying Krishna's activities, and Krishna in the middle, little baby Krishna, began to clap along with them, just like an ordinary child would. And the Supreme Lord Krishna, being completely controlled by the gopis, began to sing and dance in the middle. So, a little singing and dancing, just like a puppet in their hands. He was at the mercy of their love and affection. So now, sometimes Mother Yashoda, so these are further pastimes of Krishna, and sometimes Mother Yashoda would ask Krishna, I mean, we heard how he had his first birthday, so he should be 1 and something years old, to bring her a wooden plank for sitting. And although the wooden plank was too heavy to be carried by a child, still somehow Krishna would bring it to his mother. And Krishna was extraordinary just in those interactions too. He'd still bring a plank that was normally too heavy. He wouldn't ask that for a child to carry. Other times, when Nanda Maharaj was worshipping Narayan, which is another name for Vishnu, and he would ask him to bring his wooden slippers. I actually got some wooden slippers like that. And Krishna, with great difficulty, would put the slippers on his head and bring him to his father. So these are the type of slippers we're dealing with. So he put them on his head and carried them over to his father. It's pretty heavy wooden slippers for a 1.5-year-old to carry. But he was very cute, and carried them on his head with great difficulty and then bring him to his father. When he was asked to lift some heavy article and was unable to lift it, Krishna would simply move his arms. I don't know how that would look like. But in this way, daily, at every moment, he was the reservoir of all pleasure to his parents. The Lord was exhibiting such childish activities before the inhabitants of Vrindavan because he wanted to show the great philosophers and sages searching for the absolute truth, how the Supreme Personality of Godhead is controlled and by and subject to the desires of his pure devotees. So he's controlled, Krishna is controlled by the desires of his pure devotees, to who really love Krishna so much. So he's controlled by love. One day, a fruit vendor came by before the house of Nanda Maharaj, and upon hearing the fruit vendor call, "If anyone wants fruits, please come and take from me." Child Krishna immediately took some grains in his palm and went to get fruits in exchange. He'd seen, in those days, exchange was by barter, and had seen his parents exchange fruits and other things by bartering grains. And so he imitated. With his little palms, very small palms, um, he took grains, two handfuls of grains, but not very careful to hold them tight. He was dropping grains all over, and then got to the vendor with just a few little grains left in his hand. So the vendor who came to sell the fruit saw this and was very much captivated by the beauty of the Lord. So he immediately accepted whatever few grains were left in his palms and filled his hands and arms with fruits. There's a nice picture I'll send in the WhatsApp group of that. And now in the meantime, the vendor saw that his whole basket of fruit had become filled with jewels. The Lord is the bestower of all benediction. If someone gives something to the Lord, he is not the loser. He's the gainer by 1,000,000 times. So, Krishna reciprocated to the vendor who was, he was mesmerized by Krishna's beauty, and even though he only received a very inadequate amount of grains, he filled up Krishna's arms with lots of fruits. And in exchange of that, when looking back at his basket, he realized, wow, all his fruits had turned into, jewels. Now one day, Lord Krishna, the liberator of the twin Arjuna trees, was playing with Balaram and the other children on the bank of the Yamuna. And because it was already late in the morning, Rohini, mother of Balaram, went to call them back home. But Balaram and Krishna were so engrossed in playing with their friends that they did not wish to come back. Does that ring a bell? Have you ever been called by your parents to come home, but not really wanting to leave your friends? So they just engaged themselves in playing more and more. When Rohini was unable to take them back, she went and sent for Mother Yashoda to try and call them again. Mother Yashoda was so affectionate to her son that as soon as she came out to call him back home, her breast filled up with milk. She loudly cried, "My dear child, please come back home. Your time for lunch is already past." Then she said, "My dear Krishna, oh my dear lotus-eyed child, please come and suck my breast. You have played enough. You must be very hungry, my dear little child. You must be tired from playing for so long." She also addressed Balaram, "My dear, the glory of your family, please come back with your younger brother Krishna immediately. You have been engaged in playing since morning and you must be very tired. Please come back and take your lunch at home. Your father Nanda Maharaj is waiting for you. He has to eat, so you must come back so that he can eat." As soon as Krishna and Balaram heard that Nanda Maharaj was waiting for them and could not eat unless they came back, could not eat food in their absence, they started to return. But then, as the playmates would do, the playmates complained, "Krishna is leaving us just at the point when our playing is at its summit." I think it's always at its summit, "Next time we will not allow him to leave." And then his playmates then not only said that, but they threatened to not allow him to play with them again. Krishna, becoming afraid, oh no, instead of going back home, he went back to play with the boys. At that time, Mother Yashoda scolded the children and told Krishna, "My dear Krishna, do you think that you are a street boy? You have no home? Please come back to your home. I see that your body has become very dirty from playing since early morning. Now come home and take your bath. Besides, today is your birthday ceremony. Today's your birthday ceremony. Therefore, you should come back home and give cows in charity to the Brahmins. Don't you see how your playmates are decorated with ornaments by their mothers? You should also be cleansed and decorated with nice dress and ornaments. Please therefore come back, take your bath, dress yourself nicely, and then again you may go and play." Okay? In this way, Mother Yashoda called back Lord Krishna and Balaram, who are worshipable by great demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. She was thinking of them as her children. When Mother Yashoda's children, Krishna and Balaram, came home, she bathed them very nicely and dressed them with ornaments. She then called for the Brahmins, and through her children she gave many cows in charity for the occasion of Krishna's birthday. In this way, she was performing the birthday ceremony of Krishna at home. After this incident, all the elderly members of the cowherd men assembled together, and Nanda Maharaj presided. They began to discuss amongst themselves how to stop the great disturbances that in the Mahavan area on account of the demons. In this meeting, Upananda, the older brother I don't know if it's the older brother, but the brother of Nanda Maharaj was present. He was considerably learned and a leader and a well-wisher of Krishna and Balaram, and he began to address the meeting as follows. He said, "Dear friends, now we should leave here for another place, because we are continually finding that great demons are coming here to disturb the peaceful situation. And they're especially attempting to kill the small children. Just consider Putana and Krishna. It was simply by the grace of Lord Hari." So Lord Hari is another name for Vishnu or Narayan and Krishna, really. So, but he's saying it's simply, the Supreme Personality of Godhead's, by His grace, that Krishna was saved from the hands of such a great demoness as Putana. And then the whirlwind demon took Krishna away in the sky, but by the grace of Lord Hari, he was saved. And the demon fell down on a slab of stone and died. Now recently, the child was playing between the two trees, and it's by the grace of Lord Hari that Krishna survived this situation where the two trees had fallen. What would have happened if all other children if anybody got injured, maybe some of the other children, what would have happened then? If they got hurt, if they were crushed under one of those trees. So considering all these incidents, we must conclude that this place is no longer safe. Let us leave. We have all been saved from different calamities by the grace of Lord Hari. So now we should be cautious and leave this place and reside somewhere where we can live peacefully. So we need to take heed of this. We need to take these signs and leave this place, because... So I think we should all go to the forest known as Vrindavan, where just now there are newly grown plants and herbs. It's very suitable for pasturing ground for our cows, and we and our families, the gopis with their children, and everyone can peacefully live there. Near Vrindavan there's a Govardhan hill, which is very beautiful, and there is newly grown grass and fodder for the animals, so there will be no difficulty in living there. I therefore suggest that we immediately start for that beautiful place, as there's no need to waste any more time. Let us prepare all our carts immediately, and if you like, let us go, keeping all the cows in front. On hearing the statements of Upananda, all the cowherd men immediately agreed. Let us immediately go there. Everyone then loaded their household furniture, utensils, cars, and prepared to go to Vrindavan. All the old men of the village, the children and women were arranged on seats, and the cowherd men equipped themselves with bows and arrows to follow the carts. All the cows and bulls along with their cars were placed in front, and the men surrounded the flocks with their bows and arrows and began to blow on their horns and bugles. In this way, with tumultuous sound, they started for Vrindavan. And who can describe the damsels of Vraj? They were all seated on the carts and were very beautifully dressed with ornaments and costly saris. So that's the gopis, damsels of Vraja. They began to chant the pastimes of child Krishna as usual. Mother Yashoda and Mother Rohini were seated on a separate cart, and Krishna and Balaram were seated on their laps. While Mother Rohini and Yashoda were riding on the cart, they talked to Krishna and Balaram. Feeling pleasure of such talks, they looked very, very beautiful. In this way, after reaching Vrindavan, where everyone lives eternally, very peacefully and happily, they encircled Vrindavan and kept the carts all together. So they made a big circle. After seeing the beautiful appearance of Govardhan on the bank of the Yamuna river, they began to construct their places of residence. While those of the same age were walking together and children were talking with their parents, the inhabitants of Vrindavan felt very happy. Yeah, Vrindavan is where everyone lives eternally, so it's also the spiritual world. There's also Vrindavan there. So there's an eternal Vrindavan, and then there's a Vrindavan in this world when Krishna comes here. So that's why That's my understanding of reaching Vrindavan, where everybody lives eternally, very peacefully and happily. So at this time, Krishna and Balaram were given charge of the calves. The first responsibility of cowherd boys was to take care of the little calves. The boys are trained in this from the very beginning of their childhood. So along with other little cowherd boys, Krishna and Balaram went into the pasturing ground and took charge of the calves and played with their playmates. While taking charge of the calves, sometimes the two brothers played on their flutes, sometimes they played with the amalaki fruits and bell fruits, just like small children play with bowls. Sometimes they danced and made the tinkling sounds with their ankle bells. Sometimes they made themselves into bulls and cows by covering themselves with blankets. Thus Krishna and Balaram played. So they were playing whilst herding the calves. The two brothers also used to imitate the sounds of bulls and cows and play at bullfighting. Sometimes, yeah, you can't be boys if you're not going to do some boyish stuff. Sometimes they used to imitate the sounds of various animals and birds. In this way, they enjoyed their childhood pastimes, apparently like ordinary, mundane children. Once, when Krishna and Balaram were playing on the bank of the Yamuna, a demon of the name Vatsasur assumed the shape of a calf and came there intending to kill the brothers. So, it didn't stop while moving. By taking the shape of a calf, the demon could mingle with other calves. Krishna, however, specifically noticed, and he immediately told Balaram about the entrance of a demon. Both brothers then followed him and sneaked up on him. And Krishna caught hold of the demon calf by the two hind legs and tail and whipped him around very forcefully and threw him into a tree. The demon lost his life and fell down from the top of the tree to the ground. And the demon lay dead on the ground. All the playmates of Krishna congratulated him. Well done, well done. And the demigods in the sky began to shower flowers with great satisfaction. In this way, the maintainers of the complete creation, Krishna and Balaram, used to take care of the calves in the morning every day. And thus they enjoyed their childhood pastimes as cowherd boys in Vrindavan. So that was the killing of Vatsasur. All the cowherd boys would daily go to the banks of the river Yamuna to water their calves. Usually when the calves were drinking, they also would drink the Yamuna, so water. One day after drinking, when they were sitting on the banks of the river, they saw a huge animal which looked like something like a duck and was as big as a hill. Its top was as strong as a thunderbolt, and they saw that unusual animal. They became afraid. When they saw that unusual animal, they became so afraid. The name of the beast was Bakasur. He was a friend of Kamsa's, and he appeared on the scene suddenly and immediately attacked Krishna with his pointed, sharp beaks. I think he's more of a, not necessarily a duck, but with a sharp beak bird. I forget the name. Well, he immediately attacked Krishna and quickly swallowed him up. When Krishna was thus swallowed, all the boys, headed by Balaram, became almost breathless, as if they had died. But when Bakasur demon was swallowing up Krishna, he felt a burning, fiery sensation in his throat. This was due to the glowing effulgence of Krishna. The demon quickly threw Krishna up and then tried to kill him by pinching him with his beak. And Bakasur didn't know that Krishna was playing the part of a child of Nanda Maharaj, although he was still the original father of Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe. The child of Mother Yashoda, who is the reservoir pleasure of the demigods and who is the maintainer of saintly persons, caught hold of the beaks of the gigantic duck, and before his cowherd boyfriends bifurcated his mouth, just as a child easily splits a blade of grass. From the skies, the denizens of heaven showered flowers like the chameli, the most fragrant of all flowers, as a token of their congratulations. Accompanying the showers of flowers was a vibration of bugles, drums, and conchos. When the boys saw the showering of flowers and heard the celestial sounds, they became struck with wonder. When they saw Krishna, they all, including Balaram, were so pleased that it seemed as if they had regained the very source of life. As soon as they saw Krishna coming towards them, they, one after another, embraced the son of Nanda, holding him close to their chests. After this, they assembled all the cows under their charge and began to return home. So that's just another day, isn't it? In Krishna's life. So when they arrived home, they began to speak of the wonderful activities of the son of Nanda. When the gopis and cowherd men all heard the story from the boys, they felt great happiness, because naturally they loved Krishna, and hearing about his glories and victorious activities, they became still more affectionate towards him. Thinking that the child was saved from the mouth of death, they began to see his face with great love and affection. You know, it just escaped death again. They were full of anxieties, but they could not turn their faces from the vision of Krishna. The gopis and the men began to converse amongst themselves about the child Krishna was attacked, about how the child Krishna was attacked in so many ways and so many times by so many demons, yet the demons were killed and Krishna was uninjured. They continued to converse amongst themselves about how so many great demons in such fierce bodies attacked Krishna to kill him, but by the grace of Hari, they could not cause even a slight injury. Rather, they died like small flies in a fire. Thus, they remembered the words of Garga Muni, who foretold by dint of his vast knowledge of the Vedas and astrology that this boy would be attacked by many demons. Now they actually saw that this was coming true, word for word. All the elderly cowherd men, including Nanda Maharaj, used to talk of the wonderful activities of Lord Krishna and Balaram, and they were always so much absorbed in those talks that they forgot the threefold miseries of this material existence. The threefold miseries are Adi Bhautik, Adi Devik, and Adi Atmik. So Adi Atmik is others, other Atmas, other Jivas like us. We get, and then Adi Devik is the demigods, or the Mother Earth, or the the rain, thunder, this, that, and Adi Atmik, Adi Bhautik. Yeah, and then one is your self-inflicted miseries and other inflicted miseries, and then the material creations inflicted in miseries. But they forgot all about these three kinds of miseries of this material existence, which is always there. Others are bothering our own mind, our own selves, bothering us, and then the demigods and material, Adidaivic category, which is those that are in charge of the universe. They cause us trouble with a hurricane, with this or that. So this is the effect of Krishna consciousness. What was enjoyed 5,000 years ago by Nanda Maharaj can still be enjoyed by persons who are in Krishna consciousness simply by talking about the transcendental pastimes of Krishna and his associates. Thus, both Balaram and Krishna enjoyed their pastimes, imitating the monkeys of Lord Ramachandra, who constructed the bridge over the ocean, and Hanuman, who jumped over the water to Ceylon. Remember Hanuman? And so Krishna used to imitate that, because that happened before more than 5,000 years ago, and so they used to imitate such pastimes among their friends, and so happily passed their childhood life. So that's the end of chapter 11. Tomorrow we will have chapter 12, the killing of the Agha Sura demon. Well, thank you for listening, and good night. Hare Krishna. Oh, there you go.